Hey, friend, I'm actually done recording this one. I'm about to publish it. I'm just putting it together and I'm eating my breakfast and sipping my tea. And I just wanted to pop in to tell you that this one is a little bit messy because near the end, a little boy just came into my house who was a lost little boy. And I had to stop it, call the cops, yeah, it was very interesting. And so it gets way off topic, near the end. So I just wanted to throw that out there before you listen in case you don't want to sit and listen to all that.
Hello, my beautiful brother or sister in Christ. I am so glad that you are here. Today we are going to, hang on, I need some water already. I'm going to hit pause. You're going to have to bear with me. We have fires all over Utah this month, and so I'm all stuffy and congested. And okay, so we are going to be talking about when you are angry with God and you don't feel like praying anymore, when you feel forsaken, when you feel alone, when you feel like you've just been in this kind of long suffering, or you just feel like your prayers aren't being answered. I don't know if you're like me, if this will relate to you. Sorry, my voice is just going to be crappy through this whole thing. Yeah, have you ever gone through something so painful that it just completely changes the way you look at God? Maybe you're there now. Maybe you can relate in the past. Maybe you've prayed for healing that never came. Maybe you have begged God to save your marriage, save your child, save your health, save someone you love. And it just feels like heaven has been silent. And maybe you have begged God and you have found yourself thinking, God, where are you? Why would you let this happen? If you really loved me, if you really cared, why didn't you answer? And maybe you've never said those words out loud. Maybe you've just thought them. I know when I was in this place, I got brave enough to say them out loud. And maybe if you're being honest with yourself, you have done what I did. You stopped praying. Okay, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to come clean. I have been here. I've been that person. Okay, my faith completely shattered at one point. And maybe for you, it's not exactly that you stopped believing God exists. Man, I was near atheist at that time. So I went further than probably most. But maybe it's just because you have become so hurt, so disappointed, so confused that you just didn't know what to say anymore. Maybe you figured, like me, what's the point? If God is going to do what he wants anyway, why keep asking? Sometimes it can seem to fall on deaf ears. I've been there. And if that is where you are today, friend, I want you to know that you're not alone. You are super not alone. Not only have I been through this, so many believers have been through this part of the faith walk. And we see in the Bible, we're going to get to that, some of our favorite heroes in the Bible have been there. Okay, God shares these testimonies and stories with us because he knows our tendencies. And man, I wish I would have been in the Bible at this time when I was going through this, because it would have helped everything make much more sense, and maybe I wouldn't have shut God out at this time. So important to be in our word, because he shows us that we have this tendency and he can help us through it, through these testimonies and stories. But anyway, okay, so I was reading in Exodus 17. Woohoo, I graduated Exodus 17. I was in Exodus 16 for like 4 days. That's the chapter with manna. So it's nice to move on. And I realized that while I was reading this and studying it, that the Israelites, they found themselves in this exact same place as I was reading and studying. I'm like, who can I relate to this? And I felt moved to share in case somebody else can also relate to this. And so many people on their own journeys who have gotten through this place came back to help me. And I am so grateful. And now that I'm on the other side, I want to come. I want to make sure that I, return the favor, pay it forward. Okay. So God had faithfully delivered the Israelites from Egypt. He had parted the Red Sea. He had turned bitter water sweet. He rained manna down from heaven every single morning. That was the last chapter. And now he has led them to, let me try not to butcher this, Rephidim. It's a place on their journey. It's right before they get to Mount Sinai. And it's harsh and it's rocky. It's wilderness. It's got these dry riverbeds and there is no natural water. And I loved this because it was like the lesson, the application. It's like speaking about dry seasons, literally. It just made me really think, like, why would God intentionally lead his people to a place where there is no water? Because they're at his guidance right now. They're following the cloud. They're following the fire. And it's obvious that they weren't there because they had disobeyed. They weren't wandering outside of God's will. They were exactly where God had led them. And sometimes obedience still leads us into places that don't make sense. Sometimes following Christ feels like unanswered prayer. Sometimes it feels like silence. Sometimes it feels like loss. It feels like God has led us somewhere he should have known we can't survive, right? And kind of a little bit of a side note here. It kind of reminded me, like, I've seen this before in Christian circles where they can kind of get on somebody who is going through a hard time and kind of attack them. I remember people doing this a long time ago to me, like, you just don't have enough faith, right? Or what else do they say? It can get into that kind of prosperity type of gospel. And it just like makes you think you're doing something wrong. We can be judged in that place, or we can actually judge others in that place. We can judge ourselves in that place. Sometimes we get in that place, like it has been so tempting, and I have to just purposely not go there. I think of all the things that I could have done to prevent what happened to my girls, and it's like beating a dead horse. It's like beating myself up, and it's a dead end road because it's just this almost like trying to change something that can't be changed at this point. Now, that's not to say we don't need to learn from our past. We definitely need to learn from it. I'm thinking of Rafiki and the Lion King, right? That's a whole other type of not good thing when we just are ignorant and we try to move through life without reflecting on the past and what we could have done better. But the whole point is, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. It's like, it isn't always our fault, right? It isn't always because we haven't walked the faith walk well enough, right? Because they're here because they have obeyed God, right? And I guess the question here isn't whether or not we're going to experience those seasons. I think one of the misconceptions I had that made my faith walk early on with Jesus very weak is that I expected that once you find Christ, everything's supposed to be easier. And oh my goodness, could I not have been more wrong? And once I understood the truth, it made my walk so much easier when I went through hard things. And not to always blame myself, where is unnecessary. You know, we all live in sin, and we need to keep up on the fact that, you know, we don't know, we usually don't get it right. But yeah, we're all going to experience these seasons as believers. And the question is, they were talking about this in my commentary. I'm following the Bible Show. They're great. They did a great dissection of all of this. So go check that out. It was really good. Exodus 17, the Bible Show podcast. I know for sure it's on YouTube. I don't know where else it is. That's where I listen to it. But what do we do when we get there? And in Exodus 17, verse 2, it says the Israelites quarreled with Moses. And when I looked up this word, quarreled, it has like a slightly different meaning than what you initially think of, which is just, arguing. That's what I thought. I found the Hebrew word is riv. Hope I'm saying that right. And it doesn't simply mean that they were just frustrated or annoyed. It carries the idea of bringing a legal complaint or a lawsuit. So in other words, they were not just complaining, they were building a case. And they were essentially saying, Moses, you are failing as our leader. Give us water. And Moses responds, why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord? And in other words, he's saying, you're bringing your case to the wrong person. Okay, God is the one who has led us here. Your complaint isn't really against me. It is against him. And that just really got me thinking, because isn't that exactly what we do? I love these stories. I can always see myself in it, and just humanity as a whole. And it's like, when life falls apart, when the diagnosis comes, when the prayers go unanswered, when the relationship ends, when the child passes, like in my case, we can quietly start building a case against God. If you loved me, if you were listening, if you really cared. And we become prosecutors against God instead of his children. But here's kind of what stuck out to me even more, is that the Israelites, and they were talking about this in the commentary too, they forget to pray. Okay, and if we think about how this story began, back in Egypt, they cry out to God because of their slavery. Okay, they cry out, and God hears them. He rescues them with these mighty signs and wonders, and now, only a short time later, they have arrived at Rephidim, and instead of bringing their need and their complaint to God, they bring accusations against Moses. And somewhere along the journey, they stopped talking to God. And they started talking about him. And ooh, can I understand that? More than I wish I did. Because I have been there, okay? I remember consciously deciding I'm not going to pray to you anymore. And I became bitter and calloused and cold toward God. After my daughter Jade passed away, this is my 16-year-old daughter who passed away from cancer one day before her 16th birthday, I became angry at God. I couldn't understand why he hadn't answered my prayers, or the prayers of an entire community that had been faithfully praying for her. This is my daughter who first passed away 3 years ago. There was this other young girl around Jade's age who had the same type of cancer, which is very rare cancer. So they were excited to find that they were staying next door to each other, and they had the same type of cancer because she didn't know anyone else. I think there was maybe a couple kids in that hospital, but anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, so we had come to know this girl. We're going to call her A. And A also ended up passing away shortly after my daughter. And she had the most incredible faith. And I remember just being dumbfounded. I'm like, I remember thinking this, how can you keep praying through what you're going through? Like, he is obviously not showing up, sadly. And my mind could not let that go. And after she passed, I started thinking about all the children in that hospital, all the parents, all the churches, all the people crying out to God. And it just seemed like heaven was silent, and I could not make sense of how a good God could allow so much suffering. And I have to admit, I became contemptuous toward him, and I stopped praying. I consciously made a decision. What's the point? I'm not going to do this anymore. I convinced myself he was not worthy of my prayers if he even was there. If he was there, I figured he either wasn't listening or he didn't care. And it took me nearly 2 years before I became willing to let God begin showing me his heart. And not all my questions were answered. They weren't. I still can't make sense of her passing. But because he slowly began showing me that his silence wasn't the same as his absence, then when Lydia passed away almost exactly 3 years later, I could have gone back to building another case against God. I remember the very moment at the scene thinking, it was just the most surreal moment. It felt like I was in slow motion and there was this anger rising up in me. And I remember just in a split second being like, am I going to go back to where I was? Am I going to build another case against God over this? And this time I am going to have even more evidence. I can win this one this time, for sure. Or am I going to not go back to where I was? And am I going to keep following God? Because at that point I had been pressing in, locked in with God for a year. Almost. And oh man, so it would have been easier than ever at that point. Because I had just started, as I said, getting close to him again. And it was like, wasn't life supposed to be better now? And instead, it had become unimaginably harder. Like, have you ever had that happen where you start following God and it's like all hell breaks loose? I have seen that with so many people. But anyway, so this time I made a different choice, okay? And it was not because I had all the answers. It was not because the pain hurt any less. It hurt even more. Because now there's 2 that I've lost. I think what it was is that I had already learned where that bitterness and that callousness and the coldness leads. Living with a bitter, unforgiving, angry heart is its own kind of poison in prison. And going through suffering of any kind, I talk about these mountains and giants that are too big for us to do on our own. We have to find God in it. We have to come to him. It is unimaginably hard. Okay, going through suffering, what I've learned is hard, but it is so much harder without God. So I chose to keep praying through this. And my prayers have not been perfect prayers. They have been messy. Okay. When I started coming to God the first time around after, when I was angry with God and I just opened the door a crack, they were messy, messy prayers. They were full of accusations. They were full of anger. They were full of hate. They were messy, messy. They were not the ideal Christian prayer. And, it's interesting because a lot of people told me you can't be angry at God. So I was like, well, my thinking was, well, I'm going to go through this since he can't handle it on my own. And then when I come out the other side, why would I even want to be with him anyways? Because he couldn't handle what I was going through. Like I was too much for him or something. I don't know, but that just fueled my anger. It's like Christians telling me, you can't be angry with God. I don't know what they called it. Anyway, and I'm not blaming anyone. This is just how I took it. And I had a bitter heart. So, of course, I'm filtering everything through a bitter heart. But they made it seem like it was shameful and bad and wrong, and you shouldn't do that. And both times, okay, like lately, my prayers have not been polished prayers. They have not been perfect prayers. They sometimes are very angry prayers. They are tear-filled prayers. They are very confused prayers. Sometimes through all of this, from the last 3 years going through both passings of my girls, it's like sometimes all I had was like, God, I don't understand. I don't understand. But I kept talking to him, and I'm so thankful that I did, because over time he has done what once seemed impossible. He has brought peace where I thought there could only be despair. He has brought joy where I thought there could only be grief. He has strengthened me in ways I could never have imagined. And not because my circumstances have changed, but because he changed me in it. Okay? And one of the biggest things that I've learned is this, like, shutting out God is always the wrong response, right? Like, it doesn't mean pretending that you're okay. Like, when I had my breakthrough moment with God, I was laying on the floor, a total mess, angry at him, crying, sobbing. I barely even had a prayer for him. I was a mess. And what changed my heart was seeing that he came down into that darkness and met me there. And he loved me there. He loved me there. It wasn't too shameful for him. It wasn't too low for him. It wasn't too dark for him. It wasn't too angry for him. And I saw that he loved me when I had fallen completely apart. When I was unlovable, that is where I felt him love me the most. And it changed my mind about him. And anyways, yeah, so this doesn't mean that you're okay. Like, pretending you're okay. Sometimes we have to before we can get back on board with God, we have to fall apart. Okay, we have to let it out. We have to express it to him. God's not asking for you to fake your faith or pretend to be something you're not. I mean, if you read through the Bible, it's like, who do we have here? Okay, we have Moses, and they were talking about this in the commentary. He cries out, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant?" David, he asks, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?" Job said, "I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul." Jeremiah cried out, "Lord, you deceived me. I was deceived." I want to find the actual real. I'm kind of summarizing. Okay, Jeremiah, "Lord, you have deceived me, and I was deceived. You were stronger than I, and you have prevailed. I have become a laughing stock all the day. Everyone mocks me." Habakkuk, "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save?" So anyways, we have tons of examples. These are not faithless people. As I said, these are some of the great heroes of the Bible. They were hurting people. The difference is they brought their pain to God instead of taking it away from him. God can handle your anger. I am living proof he can handle your anger. He already knows it's there. He already knows what's in your heart. He is not intimidated by your questions. Okay? He is not surprised by your disappointment, even in him. He is not asking you to stop feeling. He is asking you to keep coming. Even if all you have is anger and frustration and contentment and coldness, and like, bring it to him. Even if all you have is tears and questions, bring those to him. Don't build a case against him from a distance. Nikki always told me, don't let the enemy paint God ugly in this. Wrestle with him. Cry before him. Take it out on him. Don't go blame somebody else like they're doing with Moses. Lament to him. Stay connected to him. I feel like it's, hang on. I don't know, someone was coming into my room. I don't know who it was. Anyway, yeah, Lamentations. Go listen to Lamentations. Go read Psalms. Like, people go through this. This is our human nature. We go through it. The point is to stay connected to God. And if I have learned anything through both of my girls passing, it's this. Going through suffering is unimaginably hard. I think I said this before. Hey, bud. What are you doing in here? I'm gonna have to go. There is a little boy in my room. I've never seen him before in my life. Hang on. Okay, so that was really weird. I've never had anything like that happen in my life. I was just sitting here recording the podcast, and some little boy, about 3 years old, just opens up my door and comes in. I don't know if you remember when I was like, someone opened my door, and then I just went on recording because I was like, okay, well, maybe it's my husband. Maybe he's home from work early. That's kind of weird that he'd be home at this time. I swear he just went to work, and he's working like far away from home today. And I was like, well, maybe it's my son because he stayed home from work. And I don't know. I just kept recording. I was like, well, I guess if they want me, they'll come back in. And then, like, a minute later, this little boy, I don't know how long it was, this little boy comes in. And I'm like, what? And then I went out and stopped the recording. I went out, and he had just opened my front door and just came in. And it's a really good thing that the door was unlocked because we never leave that door unlocked. He comes in. He doesn't have shoes on. He's in his pajamas. He's like hungry, thirsty. He doesn't know where he's from. I was like, we took him outside, and I was like, he was talking about his grandma. I'm just gonna have to tell you this story. We're totally going on a completely different subject. So you take him outside, and because I'm like, well, maybe she's just right out there, and no, we couldn't see her anywhere. And I'm like, he's saying he's hungry and he's thirsty, so I'm like, okay, well, let's go. I'm thinking, let's go back inside. I call the police. Luckily, there was like some toys there in the living room because my husband had his grandkids over not too long ago. There's like a tablet, you turn on something for YouTube, and he's just like really excited playing with the toys. I'm like, I don't know if I should feed him. I don't know if he's like allergic to anything. Oh my goodness, he's the cutest, sweetest little boy. And I call the police, and I'm just sitting there waiting for them to get there. And we're trying to ask him questions about himself. And yeah, so anyway, oh my goodness, I'm just thinking, I'm like, who knows where he went before this? He could have went across the street. He could have walked into some creeper's house, like, and I'm like recording this whole time because I'm like, I don't want someone to think I kidnapped a kid. Like, weird, very weird. Okay. Anyway, I got myself in between now and then. I went to the grocery store. I got some breakfast. I got some tea. I'm ready to finish my. I'm gonna finish this up. I don't even know where I was. I am so like my brain's in such a different place now. Oh my goodness. I hope he's okay. I hope they'll let me know if he's okay. I feel like this mic is like something's not working right. I have my earphones in. I feel like it's picking up the earphone recording. I don't know why. Like the mic on the earphone. I have to look into that. Sorry if the sound is bad today. Okay, I am trying to think where I was at. Oh my goodness, where was I? I think I was just saying like suffering is very hard, but it's a lot harder without God. And just to wrap this up, like if you're angry with him, if you felt like you've been angry, just go tell him. If you felt disappointed, if you felt exhausted, go tell him. You can feel all these things. Just take it to him. Don't be like the Israelites here. This is the lesson here. Don't stop talking to him. He can handle it. The greatest mistake that the Israelites made at Rephidim was that it wasn't that they were thirsty. It was that they stopped bringing their thirst to God, and they started putting him on trial instead. And that was one of my greatest mistakes that I made as well. So, friend, just take it from me. I made all the mistakes. Don't let your pain become the thing that separates you from the one who wants to carry you through it. He can handle your questions. He can handle your tears. I promise. He can handle your anger. Just don't stop bringing it to him. Okay? All right. Well, I love you. Thanks for bearing with me through the end of this. My goodness, that was a morning. So, all right. Well, I love you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.